Good morning. I'm Ed McNeil, Marketing and Communications Director for the City of Winston-Salem, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Union Baptist Church as we gather for the graduation of Winston-Salem Fire Department's Class 23. We'll begin our program this morning with a welcome from Winston-Salem Fire Department Assistant Chief Robert Owens.
Good morning. Welcome to the Winston-Salem Fire Department Recruit Class 23 graduation ceremony. We are certainly pleased that family and friends are able to join us today for this beautiful day as we graduate our new recruits to firefighters here in the Winston-Salem Fire Department. So sit back and enjoy the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Owens. Please rise as the recruits from Class 23 enter the room and remain standing as the Fire Department's Honor Guard presents our national colors, followed by the singing of the national anthem by Winston-Salem Fire Engineer Gino McAllister, accompanied by firefighter Tim Sloan. Please rise.
Ready, set, halt!
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight
Thank you. Please be seated.
Take seats.
Assistant Chief Frank Stowe will bring our invocation.
Good morning. One thing, smile. Loosen up. Loosen up. I know you have your game faces on here, but smile. This is a glorious event, a happy event. Let us pray. Father, we invite you into this place. For without you, there is nothing we can do. We not only invite you, but we give you thanks. We give you thanks for our life, our health, and our strength on this day, because you did not have to do it. So we just thank you for that. And we thank you for these young men that have been through the test, and they passed the test. But now they have a greater test. So we ask you to be with them, continue to be with them, keep them strong, let them continue to seek wisdom, continue to seek training. And we thank you for the families that have supported them and will continue to support them. We thank you for this city. We thank you for our council. We thank you for our administration. We thank you for all the help that you have given us to support this cause for the Winston-Salem Fire Department. It is in your son's name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chief. The city of Winston-Salem is guided by a council made up of 8 members and headed by Mayor Alan Joines. He began working for the city in 1971. He retired in 2000 and was first elected mayor in 2001. He is now serving in his 4th term as mayor, but has 45 years working for the citizens of Winston-Salem. Please welcome our mayor, Alan Joines.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. To Mayor Pro Tem Burke, to our city manager, Lee Garrity, our fire chief, Chief Mayo, and our distinguished speaker, and other members of the dais, ladies and gentlemen, but most importantly to our graduating class, good morning. It's my honor to be here as the mayor of the city of Winston-Salem to extend my congratulations and, more importantly, my thank you to this graduating class, to these gentlemen who have stepped forward to say we're willing to put our lives on the line for the citizens of Winston-Salem. You know, city governments are formed for a number of reasons. Probably the most important one is to provide for the public safety of our citizens. And we try to do that in the best way possible. And I know that we have the best fire department in the Southeast, if not the nation, and we're very proud of this department. You know, the role of the elected officials is to really to listen to the staff and to work with them to provide the resources, the training, and the other things necessary to make sure our department is able to carry out their function in a safe, but efficient way. And I believe we're doing that. On Tuesday night, our City Council, I'm sure, will consider, I think positively, a way to adjust the pay rates for our public safety officers and members of the public safety departments in the city of Winston-Salem to make sure that we are competitive and to make sure that we are saying to the individuals who serve us in a public safety role that we respect you, that we appreciate your service to us. So this morning I come to you on behalf of our 239,000 citizens of Winston-Salem to say congratulations and thank you for stepping up to serve our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The longest-serving elected official in the city's history spent 36 years as the chairman of public safety, but she's in her 39th year of service to the city of Winston-Salem. Please welcome our Mayor Pro Tem and council member of the Northeast Ward, Ms. Vivian H. Burke.
Good morning to our city manager and staff. Excuse me, I believe in protocol. To our council member, McIntosh. To our city manager and staff. To our chief of fire and staff. To our chief of police, I see him here today. Mayor, I believe they said you've been here how many years? You want to have more than me. He worked some of those years, and he's been elected official of some of the years. But I'm so proud and pleased to have the opportunity to stand before you and to say to our graduates how happy we are. The Public Safety Committee for the City of Winston-Salem has never put a dollar sign before your safety. We want you to know that we pride ourselves in being progressive, being open-minded, transparent, to make sure our employees are safe and sound. I would say to the parents and friends as I stand here, some of you may live in this great city and some of you may be visiting this city. We're pleased that we'll have the opportunity to work with your loved ones. And we truly understand that their job is not an easy one. So I want to say in behalf of the Public Safety Committee, our chairman, Councilmember Teller, had an emergency and cannot be with us on this great morning. I do see another council person who just came in, Councilmember Bessie. Thank you, thank you. As I stand in this church and have the opportunity to look around, I am more like the historian for this city. It is nothing I've ever forgotten. No path do I forget that I have walked, which journey I have taken. When I stand in this church, I want you to know that the pastor of this church, doctor, he has his doctorate, but he's Bishop, Sir Walter Mack. He also wants to bring you greetings and let you know how pleased you are that you are in this church, and that God will bless all of you, and especially the firemen who are getting your degree or whatever we may want to consider it today. He says, God be with you and bless you. And by the way, Sir Walter was my student. I was his counselor when he was in elementary school. So again, in this great church, we greet you, we welcome you, and God be with you in behalf of all of us who are elected officials. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium Council Member from the Northwest Ward, Councilmember Jeff McIntosh.
Thank you. As a member of the Public Safety Committee, I want to reach out and say thank you for all the hard work and dedication you've put in so far, and to please recognize that there'll be a lot more of that asked from you going forward, and I'm sure you're up to the task. And I also want to thank, to welcome you to the family that is the City of Winston-Salem, and specifically the Fire Department, and recognize that it's a group that values hard work, it values training, and it values constant improvement. And I want to ask you to dedicate yourself to that, as I'm sure you will, and to be a good complement to an already fine force. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Member. In the council manager form of government, the city manager oversees the day-to-day operation of city government and the delivery of city services. In his 10 years as city manager, Lee Garrity has championed improved customer service, accountability, as well as a spirit of all of us working together as one team. Please welcome our city manager, Mr. Lee Garrity.
Good morning. I want to welcome all of the family members and the recruits that are here. This is a fine occasion. I often talk to other employees and wish that we could replicate the spirit of camaraderie that we have in police and fire, with graduations, with promotions, that tight sense of teamwork that is so valued in this community. I want to thank my assistant city managers and, most importantly, our human resources staff. They're in the back. They worked hard with the fire department to make sure each one of you is sitting where you are today. And I do want to say just a couple words to everyone about public safety. I have the fortunate ability to be woken up a lot at night by police and fire, and that is a good thing. It's a good thing because it keeps me honest. I'm reminded of what each of you do. When I get a very short phone call telling me about a fire with an injury or a fatality to a citizen, or a police officer involved, and as we just saw, a police officer was injured here recently, I'm reminded of what each of you do each day and each night to protect all of the citizens of Winston-Salem. And I never ever want to forget that. I want to value that, I want to appreciate that, and this city and this mayor and city council, they want to reward that. So again, welcome to the city of Winston-Salem, and I look forward to seeing you for a long career. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Trey Mayo began his service to the citizens of Winston-Salem a year ago this month. In the monthly public safety news conference, he often reminds media to share with the public that house fires can be prevented and that protecting lives and property is really a partnership between residents and the fire department. He's a 27-year veteran of fire services. Please welcome Winston-Salem Fire Chief William Trey Mayo.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council, Mr. Manager, other members of the city staff, welcome and thank you for joining us this morning. Welcome and thank you to all the members of the families who are with us this morning as well. Mr. McNeil charged me with saying something inspirational to our recruits, but we have somebody here who is far more inspirational than I, so I use this opportunity to say some things to the recruits that I think are best said in front of friends and family members, because as they go through their careers, they're going to need your help and understanding, because this is not the typical 40-hour-a-week, 8-to-5 job. There will be sacrifices. There will be times away from basketball games and baseball practice and piano recitals and all those sorts of things that come when you're providing a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year service like we do. So in somewhat of an order of priority, what I would say to you first is have a good attitude. If you don't do anything else in your career, come to work every day with a good attitude. You are going to have ample opportunities to not like the decisions I make, not like the decisions your company officer or your battalion chief make. I've said this before, the city manager makes decisions that you're not going to like. He and I sometimes make decisions together that neither of us like, but we often find ourselves in a position of having to make a choice when there is not a good choice in the bucket. It's important to understand that making the best choice is not the same thing as making a good choice. So always come to work with that good attitude. Understand that decisions are being made on behalf of the organization, not on behalf of an individual firefighter. And don't form opinions on lack of full information. The second thing is to be engaged. You will have a lot of opportunities to be engaged with the Winston-Salem Fire Department outside of coming to work on your assigned shift day. And you need to take advantage of those opportunities. You will have opportunities to be on committees. We have Christmas parties and awards and recognition ceremonies, and even if you are not directly involved in those things, you need to come to some of them. We don't expect to see you at everything, but we expect to see your smiling faces on a regular basis, and I promise you that at the end of your career, you will be in a better place by doing that than if you had just come to work and gone home and we don't see you until you're due back at work the next time. Don't give back the physical fitness gains that you have acquired over the past 26 weeks. I was talking to Chief Walsh, where is he? And I don't know the number, but we do know that as a group you weigh less today than you did when you started. So it's going to be easy for you to pick up 10 or 15 pounds when you go on shift if you don't watch what you're doing. Continue to exercise. The City of Winston-Salem Fire Department owns the 19 best restaurants in the town. So what can I say? Eat what you want, but mind your portion sizes. Stay sharp on general fire knowledge. So with the exception of a couple of things that we put a high priority on, like rapid intervention, safety and survival, you spend more time in an air pack, a self-contained breathing apparatus, than what it takes to meet the minimum for the state certification. But beyond those core things that we place a higher priority on, you all sort of have met the minimum requirements to be certified as firefighters in the state of North Carolina. It's incumbent upon you, and we place a very high expectation on your company officers to make sure that when you go on shift, you continue to acquire, reinforce what you've learned and continue to refine that knowledge. And what I would tell you is, I've told you if you don't do anything, have a good attitude. The other two things I would tell you, if you don't study anything else between now and the day you retire, always stay sharp on fire behavior and building construction. And the last thing I would tell you is, some of you already have, I don't need to ask, I know, I've been doing this a while. Some of you already have part-time jobs lined up, and that's one of the attractions to working in the career fire service is you have some time off. Now, everybody will tell you you work 10 days a month. That's not true. You work 20 days a month. You work 16 hours on 10 days, and you work 8 hours on 10 more days a month. It's the same thing as an 8-hour employee working every day of the year when you look at the hours across the year. So, but you do have some time to work a part-time job, and that's fine. We don't put any restriction on that. As long as you come to work prepared to do your job here, we don't have much to say about what you do on your days off. As one of my former chief officers said, what you do on your days off is your business. Don't let it become my business. Invest in this job. This job is the one that is largely not dependent on the economy. Fire departments rarely lay off, even in the worst economic downturns. Now we may downsize through attrition, but we rarely send firefighters home because fire and medical particularly medical calls go up every year. Fire calls kind of remain flat, but the demand for services goes up every year. So we can't maintain our level of service by reducing the size of our force. This job is what's going to pay you in retirement. This job is what pays your medical benefits. So don't get lost in having the new boat or that F-250. I'd buy a Dodge if it was me. But if you have a penchant for toys, let me recommend that you live on your firefighter salary and you use your part-time money to buy your toys and pay cash for them. Because when you get to a point where you don't have a part-time job or you don't want to work 80 hours a week anymore here and at your part-time job, all you're responsible for your toys is taxes and insurance, and you can probably normally cover that. But you don't want to depend on making payments on your toys with your part-time income. Does that work for everybody? All right. It's important that you look at where you want to be when you retire and plan for your future and set some benchmarks and make steady progress toward those objectives. There is, if you manage your time wisely, there is ample time for you while you are on duty at night. You have to be there and answer calls, but at the close of what we would consider the regular business day, you have ample opportunity to get some things checked off that you are going to need later in your career. If you don't have a college education, you probably need one. If you want to be a battalion chief in this organization, you're going to have a 4-year degree, because as long as I'm the fire chief, starting at the battalion chief level, it is my expectation that everybody go through the executive fire officer program, and you cannot apply to that program if you don't have a 4-year degree. So keep that in the back of your mind, because you don't want to get to a point where you say, I am tired of doing what I'm doing. I want to do something else. I want a new challenge. I want more responsibilities. And you are 3 or 4 years away from being qualified to test for that position because you've not done the things in your first 10 years on the job to put yourself in position to be eligible. And I would stress again, things like college degrees, driver operator certifications, fire officer certifications, those things don't require any maintenance. In other words, there's no Con Ed associated with those things. You get them and you have them and you put them on the shelf, and they're there whether you need them tomorrow afternoon or 25 years from now. They're sitting there and you've got those things checked off. You don't want to be again up against the wall, tired of what you're doing, looking for new opportunities, and not be in a position to be qualified. So I hope this helps, and I hope the families understand the support that you're going to need to be successful in this career. Now, we are honored this morning to have a guest speaker with you. So while I was charged with doing that inspirational stuff, we have somebody who is much more inspirational than I. I think I said that earlier probably. Dr. Dennis O'Neill is the Deputy U.S. Fire Administrator, and if I did my math right, he is 3 people away from the President of the United States. So he reports to Chief Ernie Mitchell, who is the U.S. Fire Administrator, who reports to Craig Fugate, who is the FEMA Administrator, and then Fugate reports to Jay Johnson, who is the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, which is a cabinet position, and he reports, of course, directly to President Obama. So we have somebody with us this morning who has a very busy schedule. I mean, he has something to do tonight. Probably not. Well, you do have something government related tonight. So he came in town yesterday afternoon. He's leaving shortly after the service today, but we really appreciate the sacrifice that he and his wife made to take a couple of days off and come down and spend some time with us and share some thoughts with you. And I'll tell you, Dr. O'Neill, he's probably, I've heard him speak a number of times, and probably at some point, and you can see his bio, he grew up in New Jersey, and he's going to give you some kind of Jersey stuff that he's always got this Jersey talk going on. But this guy has a Southerner's heart, and I believe that. He's just not your typical Yankee. I don't know what else to say. And we appreciate that. Always down to earth. And I'll tell you what I think is most impressive about Dr. O'Neill is the attention he gives to details. And this is not to say he's a micromanager, because I don't believe he is. I've never worked for him, but I don't get that impression. He has an uncanny ability to make you, I don't know what he's thinking. Well, I probably do know what he's thinking too. He's probably thinking some of the same things I'd be thinking. But he gives you the impression that no matter how minor the detail, if it's important to you, it's important to him. I don't believe I've ever called or sent him an email when I didn't get a call back or a return email that same day. You know, you never get pawned off on an assistant. He's responsive, and I don't think you get that from people in his position with any sort of regularity. And I'll tell you an example that ends with a story, and if we can't at least tie the story into this a little bit, it's at least a funny story. So one of the things he did, so he was a superintendent of the National Fire Academy for 20 years up until March or April, and which is longer by, 4 or 5 times longer than anybody else has ever served in that position. He's really left his mark on the fire service. But one of the things he does, as far as I know, he does it with every class, because every class I've ever taken at the Fire Academy, he does this, is he meets with the class president. Now, you know how it is. We've all been in a situation, and I don't care what kind of crowd you're in, whether it's 12 people or 1,200 people, there's one in every crowd. Well, so one of the things you have to do when you're at the Fire Academy, after you've known everybody in your class, and a full class is 24, if I remember, you have to elect a class president. Now, you've known these people like an hour. Elect a class president. Well, you know who gets elected? The guy who's been talking the most. So, you find out after 4 or 5 days that, he's got ADD, or, he's about halfway off the hook. That's why he got elected president of the class, and he's responsible. He or she is responsible for things like ordering the class shirts and booking the reservation if the class decides to go off campus one night for dinner. And one of the things he does, the class president does, is meet for lunch one day with Dr. O'Neill. And this was when he was in the role as the superintendent of the Fire Academy. Have you done this, Chad? Were you the class president? See what I'm talking about? So, I can say this because I am one. Firefighters are extremely difficult to please. We are the hardest group of people to satisfy. That's right. And so here's Dr. O'Neill, who has a schedule that I don't even want to think about, but he takes time out to meet with the president of all these classes that are running on campus all the time and get feedback about what needs to be improved about the Fire Academy. So do you think he hears about things like how we can better market the importance of residential fire sprinklers? No. Do you think he hears how we can better address ideas and solutions about how we can address the proliferation of lightweight construction, or the advent of having so many flammable interior finishes, not necessarily interior finishes, but flammable furnishings, that, how prolific synthetics are in the houses we live in today and how fast they burn? No, he didn't hear stuff like that. He hears, my pillow's too lumpy, my mattress is too soft, my mattress is too hard, the parking lot's too far from the dormitory, the cafeteria stays open doesn't stay open late enough, it doesn't open early enough, the food's too salty, the food's not salty enough. Am I wrong? Have you heard it all? And he could probably stand here until dark and tell stuff, just the list goes on and on and on. But again, he makes those folks feel like the lumpy pillow and the soft mattress are as important to him as they are to the individual making the complaint. And I'll tell you the story. There was to remain unnamed battalion chief from Eastern North Carolina. Now, I came here from Rocky Mount, so this person did not and does not work for the Rocky Mount Fire Department. I'll make that clear. But so we're sitting in the cafeteria one morning, and the cafeteria on campus. Remember, people from I've been to the Fire Academy when there were folks from Europe there. People from all over the world come to the National Fire Academy. By no question in my mind, best fire service training available in the best fire service training available in the United States, and probably in the world. And so they have to cater to the palates of folks from all over the world. So, and they do, I think, a remarkable job of that with the fare of food that they have. And one of the things they do is, for breakfast, one morning they have grits, and the next morning they have cream of wheat, and the next morning they have grits, and it goes in rotation. So this to remain unnamed battalion chief is sitting there, and he's kind of a husky guy. He's one of those guys, you know who I'm talking about, the corners of his mouth kind of turn down naturally. Got a mustache, bald head, and he's got him a bowl of grits. And he is flat putting it on that bowl of grits, let me tell you. He is stirring those things and salt. When you come down the buffet line for the salad at the National Fire Academy in the cafeteria, they've got a sort of a small condiment bar there. Salad dressing, honey, brown sugar, ketchup, A1, Heinz 57. If they don't have it, you don't need it. And one of the things they have there is butter. Well, this guy, he'd been up 3 or 4 times getting butter. He was buttering those grits and salting those grits and stirring them. And every time he stirred them and tasted them, you know, the corners of the mouth, they'd turn down a little more. He just had this terrible look on his face. Well, they have some staff there in the cafeteria, and this lady, you know who I'm talking about, she's retired, I believe. I can't remember her name, but she always came around, elderly lady, and, you know, good morning, how y'all doing? You need anything? Not really a waitress, but just kind of checking to make sure everybody's happy. And about the time she said, how y'all doing? Can I get you anything? That was the opportunity that this to remain unnamed battalion chief was looking for. Something's wrong with y'all's grits! And he's feverishly working on these grits. At which point she leaned across the table and she kind of looked over her glasses and she said, well, I'll tell you what's wrong with those grits. That's cream of wheat. So that's some of the stuff that Dr. O'Neill had to tolerate for his 20 years in the position of superintendent at the National Fire Academy. But again, I'll tell you, and I really firmly believe this, relative to the scope of the crisis, he gives everything the same effort. And if it's important to you, it's important to him, whether that's managing a federal disaster or paying attention to the grits in the cafeteria. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Dr. Dennis O'Neill.
Well, good morning. I don't know if I can follow up on that. I just want to make sure I can. But I just realized something, that while the mayor and the mayor pro tem and the city manager have been in their jobs for a long time, Chief Mayo is here in Winston-Salem for only a year. We have a new class of rookie firefighters, and I'm only in this current job a year, less than a year. And it kind of reminded me of a story from back home. As Chief Mayo pointed out, I'm from a place called Jersey City, New Jersey. I refer to it as the home of the honest politician. Those people don't stab you in the back, they look you right in the eye and they stab you in the chest. It's just a tough town, tough political town. And there was a book written about the history of the politics in Jersey City. The name of the book was called The Politicians, written by a man named Thomas Smith. And in it, he tells this story. I'm going off track here because of the length of time with these new jobs, but he tells the story of a guy named Barney Doyle, who worked as a political operative in the Jersey City government. Now, this guy immigrated from Ireland. He had a 3rd grade education, but Barney Doyle could get anything done. If you had a sneaky, sleazy, dirty, crooked, illegal job to get done, Barney Doyle was your guy. All right, he'd get things done, no fingerprints, nobody get caught. And there was an election in Jersey City, and they really don't have political parties in Jersey City. They just have the group that's in and then the group that's out. And then they kind of change seats every 4 years. And the ins that were getting thrown out of office and the outs were coming into office. And the big worry was Barney Doyle, because Barney Doyle knew all the secrets. He knew all the dirty tricks. He knew all the sneaky things that they had done over 4 years. And they had to take care of Barney. They had to put him in a job that was Loctite. Otherwise, the new group coming in would hire Barney Doyle. He would spill all the beans, go to the federal prosecutors and tell them all the bad stuff that happened. So there was only one job in Jersey City that was more than 4 years long. It was a permanent appointment, a 5-year appointment to the superintendent of weights and measures. Now, As I said, Barney Doyle had a third-grade education, and the mayor is going out of office, and the new mayor is coming in a few days before the election. And so the mayor comes out, and he holds a press conference. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an important announcement to make." He said, "Probably the most important appointment in the history of the Jersey City government." He said, "I'm about to appoint the new superintendent of weights and measures. Now, this new superintendent of weights and measures is going to make sure that every widow that goes to a butcher will not have to deal with that butcher's thumb on this scale. And if you go to a gas station in Jersey City, you're going to get full measure for your gallon of gasoline. And if you get a gallon of oil for heating oil for your house or 100 gallons of heating oil for the house, this new superintendent is going to make sure that you don't get cheated." Ladies and gentlemen of the press, I introduce the new superintendent of weights and measures in Jersey City, Barney Doyle. So Barney Doyle comes walking out, and everybody knows Barney Doyle. Everybody knows he's got a third-grade education. Everybody knows he's a political operative. And Barney Doyle thanks the mayor, and he does all this nice stuff. And the press finally waits, and Barney says, "Well, is there any questions?" One of the newspaper reporters raised their hand. She said, "Barney, how many ounces in a pound?" And Barney says, "Give me a break. I just got the job." So this morning I'm going to ask you to give me a break. I just got this job. And I bring with me the greetings from and best wishes from Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate, Fire Administrator Ernie Mitchell, and all the men and women of the United States Fire Administration. I want to thank my good friend Chief Mayo for inviting me here this morning. It's simply wonderful to be here. Thank you for all that you've done. Chief Mayo is really one of the outstanding leaders in the fire service in the United States of America, and I see a lot of fire chiefs. He's an alumnus of our Executive Fire Officer program at the National Fire Academy. He's a tremendous supporter of the EFO Symposium, and I'm someone who heavily relies on his advice to administer programs all over the United States. And Chief, you make my job a lot easier. Thank you very much. You know, I have to tell you this, though. I almost didn't make it here this morning. Life is kind of fragile, life is kind of goofy, and strange things happen from time to time. And those in the fire and emergency services and our law enforcement sisters and brothers in the room know this, and probably most of you adults know this. One minute you hear, boom, the next minute you're not. Something happens, some tragedy, and I almost didn't make it here this morning. Last weekend, my niece had a baby. And last weekend, my wife and I went to see her and the baby and, you know, bring gifts and take pictures and do all the stuff you do when there's a new baby in the family. And my wife grew up in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I live in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It's about 2 hours away, about 100 miles. So we drive out, and we finish everything and get in the car, and we're going to drive back to Gettysburg, but I have to get gas, okay? So we pull into one of those big gas stations, you know, 20 gas pumps, and they have a fast food restaurant inside. You know, you can get gas on the outside, you can get gas on the inside. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So I'm filling up the car. My wife says, "I'll go in and get coffee." And I said, "Terrific, great." Finish filling up the car. I sit down in the car, and she doesn't come out, and I'm waiting. And finally, I get out of the car, I walk inside the store, and I turn and I look, and she's talking to this guy, this big, heavy-set guy with a red apron on. He's got a hat on. And she has her hand on his arm. And she's talking to him, no coffee. So I don't say anything, and I go over and I make her 2 cups of coffee and turn it around, and she's still talking to this guy. And I go up to the cash register and I pay for the coffee, and I turn, and she's still talking to this guy. So finally I said, "Jan, you know, come on, we got to get going." She goes, "Oh, okay." And she reaches up, puts her arms around this guy, and gives him a big kiss. So I don't say anything. We walk out to the car, we get in the car, pull out on the highway, we're on Route 78. I'm over in the slow lane. In Pennsylvania, the slow lane, the minimum speed's 85, okay? And I said, "What was that all about?" She said, "What?" I said, the big guy with the red apron and the hat. What was that all about?" She said, oh, that was Eddie Makar. Eddie and I went to high school together. As a matter of fact, we were quite an item. Eddie and I dated in high school. We were boyfriend and girlfriend. Eddie took me to the senior prom. And right after high school, I went off to nursing school. Eddie got drafted like you did and, went overseas, came back home. And he went to work for his uncle. His uncle had one of those real small gas stations on that property. And, he worked there all his life. And finally, his uncle wanted to retire. He sold the gas station and all the property to the big company. And now they have this big gas station with the store. And part of the deal was that Eddie Makar would always have a job as long as he wanted. That was the way his uncle set the deal up. No matter what he wanted, Eddie would always have a full-time job. So Eddie is the second assistant night manager of the gas station. So I'm feeling pretty good. I turned to her, I said, you're pretty lucky you married me. Because if you married Eddie Makar, you'd be the wife of a second assistant night manager of a gas station in Allentown, PA. And she has this look, this flat look that most wives have. She looked at me and she said, if I married Eddie, he'd be deputy fire administrator. So I almost didn't make it here. You almost had Eddie Makar here this morning. And he's not that funny. Yeah, he's just... I have to admit to being jealous, all the firefighters in the room this morning. I loved being a firefighter. I was a firefighter for 25 years, every day of it. And it would be very dangerous for Chief Mayo to offer me a job on the Winston-Salem Fire Department on a ladder company here. That's it, the junior firefighter on a ladder company. I don't want to be in charge of anything. I don't want to be the lieutenant. I don't want to be the captain. I just want to be the firefighter. I just want to get off the truck and say, hey, Lou, what do you need me to do? And then just go help somebody. And then go do a job. And that's what you're going to do. And that's why I'm so jealous of you this morning. Fire departments are in the worst day of your life business. You help people when their lives are turned upside down. When they have no one else to call, they call you. It's a wonderful career. And that's why I'm so jealous of you. And because I'm so jealous of you, I'm not talking to you this morning. I'm talking to the other people in the room, your families and your loved ones and the people who are important to you, the ones who are so proud of you this morning. It was the author, Kurt Vonnegut, he wrote a book called The Slaughterhouse-Five, who said, I can think of no more stirring symbol of man's humanity to man than the fire engine. And he could have added police cars and ambulances as well. And only one more statement would make it complete. These young men on this morning, these courageous people and their families who support them. Unfortunately, we know that people from all over the world were held transfixed, witnessing firsthand the tragedies in San Bernardino, California, Moore, Oklahoma, Newtown, Connecticut, Aurora, Colorado, the World Trade Center twice, Hurricane Katrina, and the wildland fires out west. And it seems that every week there's some disaster, a fire, a flood, an explosion, and the actions of police and fire and the EMS at these horrendous acts of terrorism and tragic disasters are forever imprinted in the minds and hearts of Americans everywhere. And despite all the sadness, it is they who show all of us what is good and right about our American society. In hundreds of acts, in thousands of dangerous places, without regard for their own safety, these police officers, firefighters, and medics assure Americans everywhere that there's no amount of evil, no force of nature that will ever overcome America's collective good. But what you already know, and what most Americans don't, is that what happened on those days and in those places happens every hour of every day in America, including Winston-Salem, one emergency at a time. And it's the members of our emergency services who stand on the DMZ between a community and the dangers it faces. And there's a difference between bravery and courage, you know. Bravery is a singular act, and it's sometimes done without much thought. Courage, on the other hand, is facing a danger when you know full well the odds, and you still do it. That's the kind of work that these young people will do starting tomorrow. And some of it has nothing to do with fires or medical emergencies or terrorism, but they're acts of courage nonetheless. And to the moms, and dads, and spouses, and families and friends of these young graduates, let me assure you that the media will never convey the differences that they make in the lives of others. And I'm going to talk about the differences in the story at the end. And while they're soon going to be saying just another day at the office, to the strangers they help, their efforts will be remembered forever. They will have that kind of impact on strangers' lives. Firefighters act without regard to race or religion or national origin. No one is going to determine whether the people they save are rich or poor, or Republicans or Democrats. They will do something before anyone takes the time to see on which side of the tracks someone was born on, or who they pay taxes to, who they pray to or don't pray to, or whether they had a criminal record or not. Firefighters are special people. They seek to serve the highest pinnacle of service to humanity. They don't ask, they serve. They don't talk, they act. They don't analyze the angles, and they never think about the odds. These are the people who provide for our public safety every day. Not just these people here this morning, but the people that they're going to work with, their colleagues all over this city. And their first act of courage doesn't begin with lights and sirens. Their first act of courage begins when they get up in the morning and put on that uniform and badge. And they do it every day. All of them. And it's not always what they do that makes them everyday heroes, is that they know full well what they might have to do. And they still get up and put on that badge in the morning. And they have one very, very simple job description. They're expected to be at the wrong place, at the wrong time, with the right stuff. And to those of us, and myself included, who gets up in the morning and doesn't have to put on that badge, I would respectfully ask you to consider something. To those who provide for the public safety, there's a sweetness to life that the protected will never know. And that's what these young men will know today that none of you in this room will ever. That's courage. And when talking about courage, there was a very famous speech given on October 25th, 1415, a little over 600 years ago today. And in the Catholic faith, there's a saint called Crispian. And on the feast of St. Crispian, which is October 25th, there was a war going on between France and England. And King Henry V of England was over in France, and he was leading soldiers into battle in a place called Agincourt. And of course, in those days, only men were soldiers. It was going to be a very tough battle, and both sides knew it. And many soldiers were going to be killed that day, and they all knew it. And King Henry and his troops were very, very worried because they were outnumbered 3-1. And the English army was in France. They had no backups to help them out. And there were many soldiers who were afraid, and they were running away. And King Henry tried to inspire the troops that were going to stay. And to my mind, King Henry was speaking to firefighters everywhere. And here's part of what he had to say. This day is called the Feast of St. Crispian. And he that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand taller when the day is named, and rouse him at the name of Crispian. And he that lives this day and sees old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow is St. Crispian. And he will strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I received on St. Crispian's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot, but he'll remember what feats he did that day. And all our names will be as familiar as household words. And this story the good man shall tell his son. And Crispian's day shall never go by, from this day to the ending of the world, when we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. And gentlemen in England who are now in bed will curse themselves that they were not here with us today, and hold their manhoods cheap when anyone speaks about those who fought with us on St. Crispian's Day. All of us appreciate what you're about to become, from the people that you help, from the brand of brothers and sisters that you're going to work with, and they too shall remember and honor you on all days, on St. Crispian days, forever. And I want to close with a story about the influence that one person can have on someone else's life. The influence that these young men and the men and women that they work with can have on someone else's life, to the police officers, the men and women firefighters, the medics that are in the room, but also to you in the audience who may not think that you have much of an influence on anyone's life. Today, the media takes great effort to separate the war from the warrior. That whether you agree with or disagree with our country's policies on the war, that the men and women who bear arms in our name, veterans and soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen, always deserve our support. But it was not always so. In the late 60s and early 70s, the media and the public really mixed up the war and the warrior. And they treated the soldiers and sailors and Marines and airmen coming home not too well. And there's a story about a soldier who came home and wanted to sign up for school on the GI Bill. And he went up to his local college, and he learned that it was a period called add drop. Now, for those of you who've been to college, you know what add drop is all about. That's when you take one class, you take the first week, the teacher is way too hard, the coursework's way too hard, and you're not going to do this. So you want to drop the course and take one of those easy A courses. You know, you get an A no matter what you do. All right, I can see some of you in the room. You probably did that. Well, it was a big room. It was the admissions office room. It was probably about half the size of this church, and there was, 500 or 600 people, I guess, in the room, all waving papers. Now, this was a time before computers. And there was no line. It was a mob scene. And you had to work your way all the way up to the front of the class or the front desk to get your papers approved. And there were 6 people behind the desk, taking one student at a time, looking at their paperwork. If there was one thing wrong, they sent you back out into the crowd to get it fixed. And if you made it up and everything was correct, they went through this paper list of courses to see if there was vacancies in the class. And if there were vacancies, they'd put you in the class. If there were no vacancies, tough luck. You got to stick with this hard professor and this hard subject material for a full semester. Well, the soldier was watching what was going on, and he didn't think he was going to be too successful, but finally he worked his way up to the front, and this middle-aged guy named Walter turned around and he said to him, what do you want, kid? And the soldier said, well, I want to sign up for school. And Walter said, you can't sign up for school now, this is air drop. You should have signed up for school a long time ago. He said, did you make an application to come to school here? And the soldier said, no. And Walter said, well, did you take an SAT exam to get into school? The soldier said, no. He said, kid, I'm sorry, you should have done this months ago. And the soldier said, well, I couldn't. I was in the Army, I was overseas, and I just got home. And Walter said, well, when did you get home? And the soldier said, 3 days ago. And Walter turned around, picked up a piece of paper, handed it to him. He said, here you go, kid, fill it out. Take whatever you want. I'll approve it. And the soldier said, well, I've never been to college. I don't know what to take. What should I take? Walter took the piece of paper back. He said, here you go, kid, I'll fill it out for you. He said, these are all the best professors in the college. Nobody can get into these classes. They're all filled. They're great courses. I'll fill it out. You're in. Don't worry about it. And Walter approved it. And the soldier handed over a check, and he started school the next day. And now you know how I got into college without ever taking a test and without ever filling out an application. It was the kindness of one guy on a really bad day at work who took 2 minutes out of his day to help somebody he didn't know. And about 15 years later, I was at a party, and I see Walter, and I walked up to him, and I told him the story. By that time, I was a battalion fire chief. And Walter looked at me, he said to me, "Dennis, I remember you." I said, "Walter, I never forgot you." And you can have that kind of influence on other people's lives if you just take the minute or two to help. So in closing, I want to wish all of you good luck. Congratulations to all the heroes, and may God keep everyone in the palm of his hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. O'Neill. Each of these graduates seated before you today successfully completed more than 1,200 hours of training and testing to wear the badge. And today, they're prepared to take on the task of saving lives and property every day as they serve the citizens of Winston-Salem. Battalion Chief Jay Walsh, who oversees the training, will take a moment and provide an overview of what it takes to become a Winston-Salem firefighter.
Get a few of my notes. Good morning. Class 23, my boys. They've heard me say that multiple times, and I call them, my kids. We talk about it, and they've heard me say it multiple times. And I always say it's not derogatory. It's not because I say you're young or inexperienced. It's just that we're family. That very first day we talked and we said, there's 19 of you, but there's 20 in class, including me. We share everything together, and we've shared a lot in class 23. First of all, I walked up and I thought, there's no way that I can follow a speech like that. I'm going to try, but I had the privilege of hearing Dr. O'Neill speak last year at the National Fire Academy, and it was extremely influential to me. It really was, and thank you again for being here. It means a lot to me, and it definitely means a lot to Class 23. Thank you, sir. So how do you make a Winston-Salem firefighter? It's a lot more than just putting on some gear and grabbing a charged hose line and kicking down the door and putting fire out. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work and dedication to get to where they're at today to wear this badge. In Class 23, they can tell you how much work that was. It was a lot, wasn't it, guys? On August 3rd, 2015, they embarked on a 24-week journey that would forever change their lives. And I add in there, it changed my life too. Like I said, we were family. The first 2 weeks of that training we dedicated to orientation. And this is where they come in and they get their uniforms, gear, sign paperwork, get books, get manuals, everything to kind of get them ready on that initial part of that journey. It's not on your program, but I definitely want to make sure I put in there. In that first 2 weeks, I believe Chief Mayo had mentioned about classes in the National Fire Academy elect a president. Well, we also do the same thing in our academies. We elect a president, and it's very similar. They have a very short amount of time to meet and greet and talk to each other and figure out, okay, who's it going to be? And we let them do it themselves, close the door and let all the fun begin. We come back in, make sure nobody has any cuts and bruises, and everybody's feeling okay. But Chris Small was elected as their class president, and the class president serves as he's my right-hand man. When I need to make sure information gets out, I can go to that class president and I can go to Chris and say, hey, here's what we need to do, here's some training. It's 5, 6 o'clock at night. There's been many nights where I've called Chris at home. Some things have changed in our training for the next day, and Chris did an exceptional job. And I wanted to make sure I said that because he helped me tremendously over these 24 weeks steer Class 23 in the right direction. Also in those first 2 weeks, something we did new for this class is we added in study skills classes. We brought Forsyth Tech in, and these guys learned study skills, which we did find out that you can teach old dogs new tricks. So that was instrumental in getting their minds basically on proper study, how to get that time management, and how to get those things in place. The next 5 weeks was dedicated to EMT, and I'm not going to make anything about it. We have some of the best EMT instructors in the state that come in and teach our class. They have to be. Typically, the EMT that you would get in a community college setting is taught over a semester. That's 16 weeks. They got everything in 5 weeks. You have to have an exceptional class and you have to have exceptional instructors to be able to get that information out in 5 weeks. And a lot of you are looking at me, how is that even possible? Well, to kind of give you an idea what those 5 weeks look like, they took 36 quizzes, 10 chapter tests, a CPR certification, and they ended with the North Carolina State EMT certification, which I'm proud to say that every one of them passed. And in that 5 weeks, while they're getting those 36 quizzes and everything else, they're learning everything from how to take blood pressures, how to treat trauma patients, cardiac, delivering babies, you name it. Anything that you could potentially see at your daily emergency room, they get in that 5 weeks. Good job, guys. After that 5 weeks, they go straight into an 11-week program on the North Carolina Firefighter Certification Program. And in this program, they learn everything from fire behavior, as Chief Mayo said, which is extremely pivotal, all the way to fire control at the very end when they actually get to see fire and put it out and learn. And in the middle, they work on ladders, ropes, you name it. The job of a firefighter encompasses so many things. 21 classes and 21 tests. And in that, they do spend a solid week, 5 days in safety and survival and RIT, which is Rapid Intervention Team. And a whole week of that is dedicated in that fire program so they can learn how to save themselves and also how to save their fellow firefighters. Now, 21 tests, 21 things through, 11 weeks. They come out, they finish that. They're feeling pretty good, but they've learned that learning and understanding those skills is a lifelong, that's a career commitment. The information they got, a lot of hours we spent on the training grounds, practicing, setting up ladders, breathing air tests, over and over and over and over again until each one of them was proficient. But even at the end, they realized that there's still more behind it, and they're still going to learn. After that, they go into a 4-week technical rescue program, and it sounds like really what it is, technical rescue. There again, I'm biased. We have some of the best instructors in the state, if not the country, for technical rescue. Some of them are in here today. I would put them up against anybody. And matter of factly, the last rescue competition that we competed in here recently, our rescue team from the Winston-Salem Fire Department won that. We have the best. And fortunately, when we have the best, they can train our new firefighters, and they receive the absolute best training. In that technical rescue, they learn everything: ropes, rigging, helo operations, vehicle extrication, a whole lot of things. The patch on our sleeve says fire rescue. Rescue takes up a tremendous amount to make sure that we deliver the best services to the citizens. Lastly, they spend a week in their favorite category, hazardous materials operations. And in this, they learn everything on how to identify hazardous substances and do basic control techniques. Because when a firefighter shows up on the scene, we need to make that as safe as possible for ourselves and for the citizens. And being able to identify hazardous substances is pivotal. There's no time. We can't sit and pull out lots of books and try to figure out things. Firefighters need to make a decision immediately. And having an idea of hazardous materials, and there again, I'm biased, I'm a hazardous materials technician, so I've spent some time in there, and I've learned that it is very important to have that. Now, during this entire 24 weeks, their absolute favorite subject that they had was wellness training. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for roughly an hour, they got wellness training or physical fitness training. We call it wellness training. We have some dedicated folks here in the fire department that are wellness committee that teaches pretty much the recruits and the fire department as a whole. We have several of them here today. They got to do things like run some more. We did physical fitness as far as lifting, proper lifting techniques, push-ups, set-ups. We spent some time in the gym. There was a few occasions that we made a few trips up and down Winston Towers, all 30 flights, and I'm proud to say that everybody in the class made it up and down every time we did it without question. Funny thing about wellness and the wellness committee is for the families, beware. If you flick on the radio one day and a certain song, maybe Mustang Sally comes on, or Happy, or you pull out a deck of cards just innocently wanting to play a game, they look at them. They'll start sweating immediately because their wellness instructors have kind of instilled that into them. So just beware when they all of a sudden start getting on the ground, start doing push-ups. You're like, honey, why are you doing that? It's the song. The song just came on. All this to make a Winston-Salem firefighter, but as they know, learning never ends. As I said earlier, it's a lifelong endeavor that they have no problem taking. We've had multiple discussions about this over and over again. In closing, I'd like to say it's been an honor and a privilege to serve as your coordinator for Class 23. And if I do nothing else in my career, I can always look back at you, Class 23, and know that I was a part of something special. Thank you.
Thank you, Battalion Chief Walsh. City Manager Lee Garrity, Assistant Fire Chief Harry Brown, Chief Trey Mayo will present awards for Class 23. The awards are the Vivian H. Burke Character Award, Outstanding Teammate Award, and the Class Valedictorian Award. Mr. Garrity.
I have the distinct honor of presenting the Vivian H. Burke Character Award. Several years ago, we established this award to represent the character the Mayor Pro Tem epitomizes. You know, the dictionary defines character as those attributes and ethical traits that distinguish a person. In essence, character is what a person does when we're not looking. Councilmember Burke has served this community with passion, with dignity, and with respect. If you know Councilmember Burke, if you know the Mayor Pro Tem, she mentioned protocol when she was up here earlier. Character and dignity are her essence. Each year we give this award to the recruit in each police and fire recruit training academy who best exhibits those qualities of integrity, ethical behavior, and team building. This year, for this class, the Vivian H. Burke Character Award for Recruit Class 23 goes to Recruit Richard Thacker.
Good morning. I'm presenting the Outstanding Teammate Award. In our line, excuse me, in our line of business, the Outstanding Teammate Award is a very, very important position, award. You have to have teamwork in order to go home safely. Teamwork starts from the recruits all the way up to the fire chief. We all work as one in order to get the job done. So this, to me, is a very, very important award. Each recruit class receives, we pick one person out of the class that has done an outstanding achievement. This group, I don't know them as well as I've known some of the ones in the past. I've watched them real well. Any one of them could receive this award and take it. This year for Class Recruit 23, the Outstanding Teammate Award is given for representing the spirit and attitude of an outstanding teammate. Is given to William Westbrook.
We restructured the valedictorian award a little bit for this academy. We typically had done, in past academies, we'd had top EMT and then top in the fire curriculum, but we combined them into one award this time. And what we typically would have seen was sort of a bell curve of grades in the class. You'd have seen 2 or 3 clustered at the top, 2 or 3 clustered at the bottom, and then a big group in the middle in terms of grades. But after Class 22 graduated, some of us met and we put some things in place for this academy that I think have really been proven effective through what we've seen through improved academics. Chief Walsh assigned all of our new recruits a mentor based on personality profiles. So we looked at the personality profile of the mentor and mentee and matched those match those together for the assignment. Chief Walsh had alluded to, we restructured the way PT was done. They were coming in at, 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, which for some of them meant getting up at 4 or 4:30 to be at work, to get showered and get dressed and get to work and be there on time. We moved that to at the end of the day so that they could get another hour or an hour and a half of sleep. And then we also, as I think Chief Walsh also alluded to, we put a study skills, test taking, reading for comprehension type class together. The local Forsyth Tech did that for us, and I think that was very beneficial. So thank you for making those things happen. And I asked yesterday, when we were talking about who the recipient of the award is, and I said, well, how many were within 2 or 3 points of one another? And I thought he was going to say, 2 or 3 people, and he said, well, half the class. Class average was 96 and change, so the class average was over 96. So I feel comfortable that we made some effective changes, and a lot of people were able to put a little heat on that top person. So, thank you for all the hard work you put forth, the studying at night, the study groups, on the weekends, working with your mentors. Certainly our appreciation goes out to those mentors for helping a lot of you get oriented and make sure you didn't fall behind. The pace of the curriculum is so fast. Sometimes if you get behind, it is impossible to get that person caught back up. So outstanding job to all of you, and thank you for Chief Walsh again for putting that together. So the valedictorian for Class 23 is Taylor Buchanan. Congratulations.
Now's the time in the ceremony where we hear from the class spokesman about the experience of becoming a Winston-Salem firefighter. Please welcome the spokesman for Class 23, Alfred Jones.
Well, good morning. Y'all look beautiful out there. What's going on? As you know, I'm Theo Jones, firefighter Theo Jones now. It's been a long time coming. I just want to, on behalf of Class 23, I want to send a welcome and a thank you to all the families and all the friends. Dr. O'Neill, thank you to all the command staff and all the council members. Well, a few weeks ago, we pretty much voted for who would be the spokesman for the class. And I mean, I feel like it's such a huge honor to be the spokesman. At first I was like, oh man, this is cool. Yeah, I'm a spokesman, yeah. But what I realized, they only chose me because I had the biggest mouth. And that's just it. All I'm shaking their heads like, yeah. But anyways, just to run down some statistics on how big of a deal this is. Approximately 600 people applied for this job, for this career, for this life changer. 600 people. Maybe 200 or 300 people were selected to take the written test. And then it was narrowed down to maybe about 100 people, 100 to 200 people to do the interview. And then we came out with this, 19. So the way, the strategy on how they chose each of us is a huge deal. And they took time and a lot of effort to choose us. And it's such an honor to serve with you guys. But anyways, as the months went on, as the weeks went on, a lot of people from previous classes tried to give us advice and say, yeah, you guys are tight now, but by the end of the class, you guys are gonna hate each other. And I beg to differ, because we had our fights, we had our arguments, we clicked up, everybody did their own thing sometimes, but I must tell you, like, we stuck together the whole time. We stuck together. And I'm sure everybody's familiar with GroupMe on the app GroupMe or whatnot. And we spend all day together, literally all day together. And then as soon as 5 o'clock rolls around, our phones are buzzing. Everybody's texting each other. We get home with our wives and girlfriends, getting on their nerves. It'll be 11 o'clock at night, and our phones are just buzzing, like going off. I'm like, what are these guys talking about, bro? We gotta go to sleep. And but anyways, it's been a long time coming. But guys, we did it, and I'm proud of each one of y'all. It was an honor to stand next to y'all. I told y'all before we came out here that I wouldn't have chosen anybody else to endure this adventure, this journey with. You guys are awesome, and I mean, you had a guy come from drive his wife from Indiana to take this job. A guy from Michigan come down here to take this job. Military veterans taking this job. Upstate New York, Patty D. You know, and it's just an honor. It's awesome. We grew really, really tight. You know, to the point where we're giving out nicknames to each other. Rev, Doc Sanders, Doodlebug. What's up? Nah, but I had to throw that in there, bro. I love you. Nah, but yeah. After every day, after every PT, and before every test, we usually say a prayer with each other. And so that's what I want to do now before I step off. So everybody just bow your heads, please. Father God, thank you for this day. It's been a long time coming, God. You selected all of these fine gentlemen as well as myself to be involved with this magnificent department, God. You gave us all the instructors and to give us all the tools that we need and all of the strength and encouragement that we need to step off the truck and in these streets to help people on their worst day of their lives. Give us more strength. Open up our minds. Open up our hearts so that we can become the men that you need us to be, God. Not the men that we think we should be, but the men that you created us to be, Father God, so that we can stand alongside our brothers and our sisters that are already in uniform, fighting and helping people and giving people hope. Father God, we give you glory and we praise you. We give you all honor, God. In your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. And before I step off, CJ and Chris, would you like to step forward? We wanted to do something a little special for Chief Mayo. We understand right before we came in, Class 22 was here, and I'm not sure about the timeline when you specifically came in and took Fire Chief, but we know that we were the very first evolution, full evolution. So we want to extend this plaque to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. It is customary that we call the name of each graduate and have them come forward to be congratulated by all the individuals seated up here on stage, and then to be joined by the person who they've chosen to pin the badge onto their uniform for the first time. So if you were selected to do the pinning and to work with your graduate, please move to the far aisle and begin to align yourselves there to be prepared for your graduate to come over to the photo wall you see there. So I'll give you a moment to begin to do that. I'll also ask that you hold your applause until all graduates have had their badges pinned onto their uniforms. Now please welcome Chief Trey Mayo, Assistant Chief Tad Byram, and Assistant Chief Harry Brown for our badge presentation.
2, 3, attention! Left face!
Taylor Buchanan. Nicholas Cardwell. Jonathan Crawford. Malcolm Curry. Patrick Davison. Clayton Dwiggins. Benjamin Emmert. Bradley Gerstmeyer. Damian Griggs. Alfred Jones. James McHone II. Luis Olvera. Quentin Pulliam. Donald Reeves. Ronald Sanders. Christopher Small. Brandon Stallings. Richard Thacker. William Westbrook. Firefighters are held to high standards and given a challenging task of watching over our city around the clock. Congratulations and good luck. Let's congratulate these young men. To our audience, our reception will take place in the room back to my left here. You're welcome to come back into this area, into the sanctuary here for photos. Dr. O'Neill does need to leave shortly after this, so if you want photos with Dr. O'Neill, please stick around for that. Got Battalion Chief Walsh. I'm following my instructions. Captain Walsh.
3, 2, 1.